Made.com, Julien, Callede.
I'm still standing better than I ever did. Looking like a true survivor. I'm feeling like a little kid.
You are a really busy man, so I'm so happy that you made it to Stockholm.
I think we're already busy here. So I'm just faking it.
The stage is yours.
Okay, good. Up. Hi, everybody. So my name is Julien. I'm one of the 3 founders of, as we said, a company called Made.com that essentially is a design furniture e-commerce company that designs, develops, gets manufactures, imports, retails, and delivers design furniture. We started in the UK in 2010. We've been operating for 4 years now and are now retailing in the UK, in France, and in Italy. And what I'm going to try to do right now is, quite quickly, is give you a bit of a taste of what we do really, where we are now, and how we operate. Okay? So, as I usually like to say, it all starts with 2 things: a $3,000 sofa and a pretty challenged industry. Why a $3,000 sofa? Because I guess you all, or almost all, have been trying to buy furniture before. I did. You are very quickly faced with one big choice. Do you want to buy something functional and that's all? Or do you want to buy something different? Do you want to buy something nicer? Do you want to buy something different than your neighbors and that's going to last a bit longer? The thing is, if you look at the industry, and that's the UK retail furniture industry, the functional furniture industry has been disrupted in the last 10 to 20 years. And it's good I'm talking in Sweden right now because it's been disrupted mainly by big players, usually locally, and by one big one internationally. And these guys have been doing a great job in making a functional table affordable to everybody who wanted a table to put stuff on or a chair to sit on at a very low price. The problem being that as long as you want something different, and if you look at the market, the rest of the market is extremely fragmented. Okay, most of the retailers that are a bit higher end than an IKEA or a DFS in the UK are getting less than a % market share, and that's a pretty inefficient market. The conclusion of that is, if you want to buy a 3-seater sofa with nice fabric and nice quality that's going to last you 3 years, it's going to end up being roughly around $3,000, 2,000 pounds, 2,000 plus euros. And the paradox here is this sofa is usually costing, would it be made in the UK, in Europe, or in China, or in Vietnam, $300 out of the factory. The thing is, in the middle you have a ton of people, and a ton of middlemen, agent traders, importers, usually wholesalers at the same time, and retailers that are getting their share of the business on a bit of margin. Not saying that this is not right, and actually that's very right, because they are bringing value in that, but that's the way the industry is organized. Why do those guys all need to go through this whole supply chain? It's usually because you have so many retailers with so huge catalogs that each SKU they're selling is driving a little low volume per retailer, and they have to buy by slow quantities and small quantities, and they have to go through this whole supply chain. So it's a pretty inefficient market. And it's also a market where, if you look at the online retail penetration, and that's also, again, the UK, because that's our main market, online didn't manage yet, and hadn't managed yet when we started, to disrupt the industry enough and take a share of the market and innovate. So what we are trying to do here is to solve this problem for the customer that shouldn't have to pay $3,000, which is the price of Earth, for a sofa that costs $300 out of the factory. And the good thing is, the good and the bad thing is, on this market, on this industry, you have 2 other players struggling a lot. The first ones are manufacturers. And if you make it a bit of a caricature and you take manufacturers in Europe and in the Far East, manufacturers in Europe have been struggling for 10 years because a lot of volumes have been driven and have been shifted to the Far East for cost reasons, and sourcing reasons. And they're struggling to get volumes. But manufacturers in the Far East who can manufacture great things if you pay the good price are struggling too now because they're looking for volumes because of the crisis, and they're struggling to get design. These guys don't have design abilities. They are designing what you bring them, or they are designing what other factories design and they copy it. That's for manufacturers. On designers, you have a lot of talented designers out there. Even if you take out those 70% of them who do not know exactly how to design something that's going to be manufacturable or manufacturable at a good price, you still have 30% of a huge crowd, which is a huge crowd of talented designers that don't have access to two things. They don't have access to retail, because retailers have to invest so much money into new collections that they can't bet on every of them, and they always go for the most safe choice, which is logical. They don't have access to manufacturing. They don't know the factories. They can't control the quality, and it's pretty hard for them. So May.com belief was that customers don't have to pay the price of earth for nice quality design furniture that's going to last more than a year. Manufacturers don't have to struggle, and designers don't have to struggle. And our mission is to offer everybody access to great design and qualitative furniture at an affordable price through connecting customers, designers, and manufacturers directly with the help of the internet. That seems pretty simple. It's pretty complex. To give you an idea of where we are at the moment, we were 3 people when we launched the company early 2010, roughly 10 when we launched the website in April 2010. With, at the moment we launched it, a huge collection of 2 SKUs. We had a pair of aluminum chairs on a ash table that we sold. We've been since working on releasing new design items, which we've been selecting carefully on the value they were bringing to the customers, on the style they were having, on the quality they were doing. We've selected factories, 1 collection per week. So week 2 we had a pair of chairs, a table, and 2 coffee tables. Week 3 we had a collection of lamps, and we've been building our catalog year after year since that, reaching 2,000 plus designs, most of all exclusive on design in-house or externally in our catalog. We don't have 2,000 anymore at the moment, because what works very, very well, we keep it. What doesn't work, we skip it. But that's what we've been developing for 4 years. We're a team of 150 people in 2 offices. So the first office is in London with 130 people, where most of the operations are done. And we have a small buying office and product development office in Shanghai, because we manufacture a part of what we do in Asia, in China, Vietnam, and India. And then, it's actually wrong here, we manufacture 30% of what we do in Europe, but the buying office is straight in our London office, with 25% in the UK and a bit in Eastern Europe. It's been working pretty well, with great moments and growing pains, starting in the UK for 4 years. The website is now reaching 2 million plus visitors per month. We got 250 roughly plus thousand happy customers, which is very, very important for us, especially online. And we are selling on average 1,000 plus items a day, 30% of which being big upholstery sofas or big tables, 20% of which being coffee tables and large items, bulky, but not too bulky, and the rest being the smallest items we have, or lamps or chairs. We're not in accessories for the moment. So how does it work? That's when it gets boring. So if I gets too boring, you stop me. It's simple on the paper. It's a bit less simple in reality, because we don't have a huge technological breakthrough. We don't have a huge patent, but we innovate another way. We innovate in the way we do business. And we don't have one hat. We're not just a retailer, or we're not a furniture factory company. We are a design company. We're a furniture company. We're a supply chain company, and we're an e-commerce company. The design part and the supply chain part are where we innovate the most. Being a furniture company for us is very, very important, because that's a complex business. Being an e-commerce company for an e-commerce website is pretty obvious. If you think I'm going to talk about SEM or things like that tonight, I won't. You are much more knowledgeable about it than I am. I'll try to focus on how we innovate in the business. We're a design company. We work with a crowd of, at the moment, roughly 30 designers, some of them being in-house, some of them being outsourced, I mean, not in-house. Young ones, old ones, up-and-coming or designers that have been working for a while. If you look at the top middle one on Lodovico, it was an in-house young designer. The top one on the right, Kirsty, is an in-house young designer. The one on the bottom right, on the second one in the middle from the left, Stuart on Gems, I'm going to talk about them later on, are two designers that were working already in the UK for a while. And they've been choosing to work with us quite a bit now. All of these guys have been designing either a collection or several collections with us, and we work on a risk and reward sharing basis 100%. If it's working well, we make a bit of money, they make quite a bit of money. And they get their profile is raised. If it doesn't work, we lose money a little bit, and they lose time. The good thing when we work very closely with designers and we work very closely with factories is it enables you to do two things, and to take advantage of two things. The first one is what we call fast fashion. I mean, that's something that the fashion industry have been using for a while, but the furniture industry has never been into, which means the ability of following trends very, very closely, current trends, on up-and-coming trends, on working on items you want to release, on getting them on the market very quickly. In the furniture industry, usually if you want to work on something, if you want to develop it, design it, develop it, and bring it on the market, it's going to take you 6 months, a year, or usually more than a year. If you work closely with your factory, if your designers are there, and if you know the manufacturers, and if you own the design of it, it takes us roughly between 3 months and 6 months to get an item, to get the idea of an item, design it, develop it, getting on the market, and sometimes deliver it to the customers, which is much quicker. It also allows us, the way we do business, to work with very small batches of items. We don't take a lot of risk when we develop something. We take a bit of risk on the development, but not too much. If it works well, we push it a lot. If it doesn't work, we kill it, and we work on the next design. And the second thing is product re-engineering. What that means is, if we've identified an item we would like to develop, or a style, or something, if we decided that we wanted this a Chesterfield sofa, but another way, maybe different legs, different style, different things, and the designer is working on it. We're going to look at the market. We're going to look at how much this is retail in the market. And if this is $3,000, we're going to try to retail it for $1,500. Most of the saving is going to come from the way we deal with our supply chain on the very low-cost base we're working with. And a bit of the saving is going to come from the fact that if you look at it, you have a lot of ways of re-engineering this sofa. So it's going to cost a little bit less in manufacturing, not saving on the raw materials, not saving on the structure, but just designing it a bit differently so that it goes through industrial process a better way. And that's something you can do when you integrate the whole supply chain. The second the second job we have is being a furniture company. It's pretty obvious. Our job on a day-to-day basis is to look for the right manufacturer in the right place with the right raw materials for the right product. A simple example is, and that's usually a shortcut a lot of people take when they try to jump into the industry. First of all, they usually go through traders or agents or importers to go quick and build their catalog. And that's the big mistake with that, is you're going to pay more, you're going to limit your ability to design your stuff. And then as you pay more, you're even going to hit your personal margin, making your business more complicated to be sustainable, or you're going to raise the price for your customers, which doesn't work. And the second thing is going where it doesn't make as much sense to go for those items you want to develop just because you are there. Example, we've been working with China for a while. We have a sourcing office there. We've been willing to develop rugs for 3 years at the beginning. Why rugs? Because it's a good item, it works well. The offer online in the UK was not huge, and it's a very good support for designers. We've been visiting factories for 2.5 years at the beginning in China. We found quite a few. But none of them were the right quality level or the right price level for us to be developing rugs at the right price with the right value for our customers. We waited for 3 years when we decided to open a presence in India, and we found those factories that had been working with talented and big retailers, big names, qualitative ones, for years, and who knew how to do great rugs with great value on great quality. And that's when we started working with these guys. So that's for the rugs. If you look at the upholstery collections we have, Part of it is made in the UK, part of it is made in Eastern Europe, part of it is made in Vietnam, and a bit of it is made in China. It all depends on who makes what, who is better at making metal legs or wooden legs on everything. It's pretty simple, but it's pretty important. The reason why it works, working directly with factories, even though you are a young company, the reason why I think it worked at the beginning, even though it was more complex when we started and we had no volumes, is because first we're now bringing those guys big volumes per SKU because we're focusing on limited quantity of SKUs in the catalog, not hundreds of thousands. And the second thing is we're bringing them designs, on ability, on design, on ideas on how to develop products better. They are all the factories, on not only the forest ones, but also the Europeans who are craving for people who are able to bring them new designs and help them in the development process, not just send them pictures and ask them to develop it. And if you're able to give them a target price, that's even better. So that's the heart of it. The problem here is, I mentioned volume a lot of times, but this only works if you have volumes. If you don't have volumes, it doesn't make sense for a designer to work for you. They're going to try it at the very beginning. They're going to be happy because they're going to have their picture on the website. You're going to be happy because you're going to have their name. If you sell 5 tables, they're going to try and work for somebody else later on because it makes more sense from economics point of view. It doesn't make sense for you to invest in new design because you still have to invest a bit of money in developing items, in samples and all that, and you invest time into it, and it doesn't make sense for a factory to work for you if you can't buy the 1,000 lamps of one lamp you need to put on to buy and put on the table when you launch a new lamp item, or the 100 tables, which is the minimum quantity you need to order from a factory when you launch a new table. So you need volumes. So how do we generate volumes? 2 simple ways. Let's go back. The first way is focusing on a limited catalog. That's a big thing. So we have, out of the 2,000 products we developed, we are now having on the UK website 1,200 for product development process reasons, but also because we want to keep it short. We won't have 100,000 products in the website, even if we could. Why? Because it doesn't make sense, because you would dilute the quantity you would be selling per item, and you wouldn't be able to buy as many to your suppliers. The good thing is it goes with the Made.com story of curating, on selecting items, on developing a limited collection of things we believe in. So that's good. The job of our brand team, of our product team on a day-to-day basis, is to look at what they think customers are looking for, to look at the trends, and not to say we want to launch a new collection of bar stools, so we need those 10 ones because they cover the market, but to bet on the 2 ones that are going to be the ones the customers will be the most willing to pay for and to go for. So that's the job they do. On the other side, when we started the business, and it's coming back now, we had a section on the website when we were asking customers to vote within all the products we had in development, to vote for the items that they wanted the most to see retailed. And they could say, I want this one at this price, I don't want this one because I don't like it or because it's too expensive. And that was helping us quite a lot, choosing the item that we wanted to develop, and especially not going for something that finally we thought was good, but the customers weren't willing to pay for. We took it off, not because we don't believe in it, just because we're improving this. We are coming back this year with a new feature on the website to enable the customers to interact even more with us in our product development process. So that's the first part. On the second part, in bringing volumes on the supply chain process, and that's why I think that's where we innovate the most, is the way we purchase things. We don't buy a lot of inventory, bring it to the UK, and sell it. Doesn't make sense. We wouldn't be able to be fast enough. It would cost a lot of money. What we do is we launch an item with a very discounted price compared to the market due to the margins we have and due to our operational costs. And we're going to launch this sofa at $1,500 tomorrow. We're going to collect orders from the customers, we're going to group them together, and we're going to send them to the factory. And then we're going to import it on delivery to the customers. So that's a trade-off. So there is no magic. It's not all perfect. You're going to get a great design item, exclusive, at an amazing price, but at the original of them, at the very beginning of the company, you had to wait, and that was pretty long, 14 weeks to get it delivered. So that was the trade-off, and that was the bet we made on the proposal we did put on the table when we started the business. So we've been working quite a lot on that, on it's coming after, but it's all about grouping orders together on a trade-off for the customers. Great quality, good design, amazing price, no trade-off on the quality, but a trade-off on the lead time. We're very lucky as an e-commerce company because we can gather one big thing much more easily than any other retailer can do it. And this one big thing is customer feedback. The reason I think Made.com has been successful to all level in the UK market and now in France and in Italy, I think is because we've been providing customers with something they wanted at the price they wanted it. So the feedback from our customer is critical. And being able to listen to what they want is very key. A few examples. The thing is, just say the company, if we had sticked to the business model we had at the very beginning and hadn't changed it, the company nowadays would be very different. I'm not sure it would be as successful. I'm not sure we would still be here anyway. So we had to change stuff. Small things, like changing your packaging, like changing your delivery companies, like releasing new items they wanted. Big things, like working on your lead times. So I said we were working on 14 weeks lead time at the very beginning. We now improve our supply chain on everything. Comes between 2 weeks and 10 weeks, on average of 6 weeks, which is much better. And we've been doing another thing, which was a big thing for us. I've been claiming for 4 years that we would, actually for 2 years and a half, that we would never ever open a showroom because there was a lot of costs, which would add to the product costs. We opened a showroom in September 2012. We have no idea whether it would work well, but just because people were asking for it a lot, and I think that's the best thing we did. It's giving us credibility, it's working very, very well. So that's all about the business. So we started in the UK. We've been very reluctant at the very beginning, even though we raised money twice. We have a huge board of investors, and these guys have been pushing us a lot to go abroad from day one. We were conscious we were in a pretty complex business, and we were pretty young in this business too. So we pushed back for a while, and we decided only in January 2013 to launch France, which we launched in February. And we then launched in Italy in September last year. The plans for this year, to end up on that, is to keep growing as much as we can. 50% plus, again, in the UK, as we've been doing as a minimum every year. To keep growing very, very fast in France, when it's working very, very well on Italy, and to open a few new countries. That's in terms of expansion. We're planning to open 3 new countries this year. And the last bit is that it's very key for us, is we need to be keeping innovating in what we do. Okay, we are a retailer, but we have 2 big projects I can't talk too much about right now, but in the pipelines that's going to be released in 2014. The first one in how we get our customers much more in the process and collaborating with us after they purchase. On the first one being getting the customers much more in the process in helping us design and develop the right products. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Callede. It was a real pleasure having you here in Stockholm. Thank you, and have a safe flight back home. Thank you.
Thanks.
Big hand for Callede.